Today's case has been on my brain since 2010 when I stumbled late at night across a video on YouTube about it. So get ready because this one is a really bizarre one, and it's one that you might have heard of. But rather than try to anticipate which cases you know and which ones are new to you, you're just like me. If a case interests me, you'll listen to a number of podcasts or YouTubes that cover it. So today is just my retelling of a very intriguing story. This is the murder of Glenn Hollingshead. Now, once again, very little is known publicly about the victim in this case, Glenn Hollingshead, before his murder. All I really know, and believe me, I looked and looked, is that Glenn was 54 on the day of his murder. He was a licensed paramedic living alone in a place in England called Stoke-on-Trent, in the area of Staffordshire that the locals just call Stoke. And his home is in the there's a lot of pottery industry around there. So he enjoyed his ale. He possessed a willingness to help anyone in need, and he had been a member of the Royal Air Force back in the day. I also know that he had a brother named Gary and another brother named Paul. But before we get to Glenn, I have to go back to a couple of days before his murder on May 17th, 2008. So on that day, there was two twin sisters, Ursula and Sabina Eriksson, and they boarded a bus traveling from Liverpool to London. Now, there isn't much of a backstory on the twins. From what I could dig up is that they were born in Sweden in 1967, had a pretty normal childhood. In 2000, they were 33 years old each. They moved sort of separately. Ursula moved down to the US. Sabina was living common law with her partner and two children. She moved into County Cork, Ireland. They had been inseparable as children. They had that tight twin bond thing. So I'm not sure what circumstances led them to live later in completely different countries, but they did. But they visited and talked very often. And it is important to note here that until this day in 2008, they were 41 at this time, there had been no history of any criminal or any mental health issues with either one of them. Now, on the morning before all this, so on Friday the 16th, Ursula flew to County Cork, Ireland to visit her sister. Only Sabina and her partner had a pretty bad fight on the evening that Ursula had arrived. And it must have been a pretty doozy of a fight because Ursula and Sabina secretly left Ireland in the morning hours on the 17th and caught a ferry over to Liverpool, England. They got in around 8:30 in the morning on the Saturday. Sabina did not bring her little peanuts with her, so the pair headed directly from the ferry over to the St. Anne Street police station and reported that she had concerns over the welfare of her two children that she'd left behind in Ireland. And the Liverpool police contacted the Dublin police. That's how they learnt of this fight that the couple had had. But it could be that her partner had already put in a missing persons report, but that would just be conjecture on my part. But the Dublin police reported that everything with the kids was fine, like everything was good. So whether the twins were relieved to hear this, or maybe they didn't believe it, I don't know. But they got on a National Express bus at 11:30 in the morning that was going from Liverpool to London on the M6 motorway. Now, why they had decided on going to London, no one knows. Now, before boarding the driver, he tried to take the bags from them to put them in the cargo thing below, but both of them became really upset and kind of belligerent and were like clutching their bags tightly to them. So the driver got a little bit suspicious of them, but let them get on the bus anyways. So during this trip, the bus made an unscheduled stop right around 1 p.m. at the Kiel service station. Now, there are some varying reports on why this stop was made, but the one that I'm going to go with is that the twins' behavior had become a bit unruly. So they were acting odd, very erratic, and the driver had already been suspicious about them and their luggage. So he stopped, pulled them from the bus, and then refused to let them reboard. The manager, Melissa Dutton of the service station, she was watching from her post inside. She also found them to be suspicious and kind of odd acting, so she called the police. But when the police came, they didn't think anything was off about them at all. Like, they seemed pretty harmless. They were fine. I mean, maybe a little eccentric, but the driver was not going to let them back on the bus at all. So the police gave the twins a number for a bus company and told them to arrange to get on the next bus. But instead, they started walking down the median of this very busy M6 highway that has a speed limit of 70 kilometers an hour, which is about 45 miles per hour. And this was around 3:20 p.m. Now, as I mentioned in the Tia Sharp story that I did, England has a ton of CCTV cameras, so they were seen walking on the motorway. Now, there is a barrier on either side that kind of kept them out of traffic, but it's still not really a safe place to be walking. So the CCTV operators dispatched a highway agency patrol unit to get them off of the highway. They're kind of like bylaw officers. They're not really cops, but they sort out traffic when there's an accident or something. It is their job to keep traffic flowing. But when the twins saw this kind of patrol car coming towards them, they suddenly left the median and they ran into traffic. So cars are swerving and braking all over the place and chaos is ensuing. Now, during this, Sabina was clipped by a car. She fell over, but she got up and she kept running. So the police and the paramedics were called to diffuse the situation, see if Sabina needed any kind of medical help. And it just so happened that the particular police car that had been dispatched was being followed by a TV crew for traffic cops, which is like a UK version of cops. So what happened next was all caught on camera in full detail.
Right.
What we've got is they were in the central res.
Why? Do we know?
Exactly.
They speak English?
One speaks English, yeah. The one in the red,
Yeah.
we had a block coming up
Right.
because we knew they were on camera.
A full closure?
It's on camera. Full closure northbound.
Yeah.
They were trying to cross the Bravo. So as we approached, they hadn't seen us, mother. The red one's got knocked down by the red car over there. I've got an ambulance en route for her.
Right.
She seems all right, but I'm not a doctor. She has been knocked down.
Is
by
she the one that speaks English or the other one?
Yes.
Right.
The other one, she's done a run.
Oh no! Mike Alpha, we need ambulance, senior officers to the scene. We've got 2 possible fatals. You look after her for me.
We'll get ASAP.
No, stay where you are. Stay. Shh. Tango 3-3 on arrival. Both females have ran out into the carriageway. First female has been hit by HGV in lane 2, serious injury. Second female has been hit by a small vehicle in lane 1. Got 2 serious casualties. We're going to need air ambs over. We're police, my love. We're here to help. It's okay. It's all right. Have you ever seen that before? Yeah, haven't they? What the hell were they running for? Come on, they're on something. It's okay. It's okay. No, stay still for me. Stay still. Right, she's got a compound fracture. What is it? Right leg. For me. Keep your head still. Keep your head. She's very delirious. Was she like this when you were dealing with her? No, stay still. Stay still. Stay still. Calm down.
Fucking asshole.
Calm down. Mine's very aggressive, spitting at me. She is very badly injured. I don't know what's going on. Shh. No, come on, my love. Come on, you've hit your head. Calm down. We are the police. Calm down. Yeah, and the doctor's en route. It's okay. Calm down. She appears very disorientated.
What was her condition when you spoke to her earlier? She was walking wounded.
I just wanted her checked over.
Yeah.
But I suspected they were both going to do a runner. I don't know why.
That's because of
As
the
soon as the
Tango
police
3-3.
arrived, I was talking to the police, they decided to run across
Is
Run across the
conscious
motorway.
now? She's talking, or whether if she's on something, but she's not with it at all. Ambulance is here, they're helping you. Okay,
My sister.
she's behind. We are helping her.
What hospital do you belong to?
I'm police. We're police. We're police.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Have they got collar or something they can stick on her?
Won't work really, she needs everything.
Yeah. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Right, don't get going anywhere, okay? Just chill, okay?
Try to relax, just lie down again.
Where's Paul? Stay.
Oh, why do you film me?
Stay still.
Why do you film me?
Oscar Tango 33.
Fucking hell!
No! No! Stay! Stay there. Calm down, calm down, calm down. Calm down. Calm down, calm down. Calm down.
Yeah.
Relax.
Fighting for.
Calm down. They're high on
Chill.
something. Calm down. We're police. Police, look. Police.
You alright?
Get down, we get handcuffed from behind, it's not this. Down. On the face, turn her on the face now.
Over. That way towards you.
We all the.
No, let
Why
go.
are you doing like this then, Robert? Why do you do this? Why do you do it? Why? Why?
Go, get down.
Roll her forwards.
Go on.
Over.
Roll her over.
Fuck you guys! Fuck you!
Grab a restrainer, tried to use his car, she turned around, twatted me, I slipped.
Are we going to stand her up rather than put her down?
Yeah, just cross, sure. Oh, all right, it's not a problem.
On the side.
Yeah, not on standing up. Right. Keep her on the side. Keep her on the side because we're sharing.
Now, when the officers and TV crew arrived by that time, everything had kind of calmed down. Everyone was, for the most part, safely out of the way of traffic on the shoulder. Sabina and Ursula were smoking cigarettes. They're chatting amicably with the highway patrol officers, almost like nothing strange had just happened. Both women were wearing visors. Sabina's one is sporting the words "time to believe." She's got a long red coat on, and Ursula is in a yellow rain style jacket with a green sweater underneath it. And as the police chief is kind of getting up to speed on what just went down, something really strange happened. Ursula turned away from the officer, and the officer instinctively reached for her, and her yellow coat slipped off of her shoulders. She made her way almost kind of walking into oncoming traffic, where she was immediately, literally smoked by an oncoming truck clocking in at like 90 kilometers an hour, 56 miles per hour. So the truck ran straight over her, crushing her legs. Seconds later, after that had happened, Sabina ran out, not to go after Ursula, but kind of in the other direction from where her sister was laying, and then was struck by a sedan. And like she went right straight onto the windshield. She bent the glass inwards, bounced off it, slammed onto the road, landing on her side, and she was unconscious at that point. Now, I have seen footage of this. It is incredible. It just seems like there's no way anybody could survive those kinds of hits. But somehow they were both still breathing, and the officers ran to, of course, attend to both of them. Ursula had compound fractures on both of her legs. They were literally crushed. But despite her really incredible injuries, she wasn't just alive, but she was also yelling, swearing, spitting at the officers that were trying to help her. Another officer was with Sabina, who was also unconscious, but she started to get up and was yelling, "They're going to steal your organs." She managed to stand up. She's now trying to walk away, just like honestly, like nothing happened. But when they try to get her to, lay back down and wait for the ambulance to take her, she also started getting aggressive. Like she's punching this female officer in the face, knocking her down, and then took off to the other side of the highway. Now, fortunately, she didn't get hit again. And the officers, there's a total of 6 of them there, including some onlookers, like chasing after her. And when they do catch up to her, she strips off her coat. She's dancing around now like a prize fighter, like psyching herself up for a fight. And they finally managed to get her sedated so that they could put her in an ambulance. And she's still screaming and carrying on, trying to kick and punch the people that are trying to help her. So traffic was tied up for a total of 4 hours because of the 2 of them and everything that they were doing. The paramedics and the police and all the onlookers, of which there was many, many, many of them, they thought at that time that she had to be on some kind of drug, like probably meth or something, or that it had been some kind of weird self-harm pact. They searched the bags that they had been hanging on to so tightly on the bus. They found a number of cell phones, one of their passports, but no other ID or any kind of personal items other than a laptop. Now, both the twins arrived at the hospital, and Ursula was in critical condition. She had arrived by air ambulance, and Sabina, by this time, she had calmed down and miraculously was not seriously injured. They had checked her over. Um, but instead of asking about Ursula, she said instead, "We say in Sweden that an accident rarely comes alone. Usually, at least one more follows, maybe two." But she certainly, at the time that she said all this, wasn't acting aggressively. She was now chatting, even kind of joking with the staff. She was seen by a couple of doctors. They didn't see anything alarming at all about her behavior, didn't note any real injuries on her. Now, for reasons that nobody has ever really figured out, Sabina was not given any kind of psych evaluation at the hospital. Um, and this was after they had done a tox screen on her, a tox screen on Ursula, and found that there were no drugs of any kind in her system. But instead, the hospital found that um, Sabina didn't there was no injuries that required any treatment, so, she was charged by the police with assaulting an officer and trespassing, and she had to go to court the next morning for that, um, so they kinda kept her overnight, and the next morning she was sentenced to 1 day in jail, which, of course, she had already kind of served because they had kept her. um, so this woman who is clearly moving in and out of some kind of psychosis, is just released from the hospital to go about her merry way with her little plastic bag with her laptop and some cash in it. They had no evaluation of her mental state, or given like any logical or even she never gave any reason for why she had run into traffic. Um, Now, at least Ursula, because she required some surgery and a longer stay, she had to do some rehabilitation. She was actually sectioned under the UK Mental Health Act and held for 3 months, but not Sabina. Sabina was able to get out of Dodge. So she left the courthouse where she had gotten her 1 day sentence. She's now wearing her sister's green sweater, but she's calm. She doesn't seem to understand even that her sister is still in the hospital. So she's just kind of wandering around looking for her sister. So, what does all this have to do with Glenn Hollingshead that was from the very beginning of the story? Well, around 7 p.m. that night, she's still wandering around and she winds up in Stoke-on-Trent. Glenn Hollingshead and his buddy Peter Malloy, they were out walking on the other side of the street. Were coming back to Glenn's house from having a pint at the pub, and they were walking Glenn's dog. Sabina called to them from the other side of the street, said, "Hey, I like your dog." So she came over, she started petting the dog, chatting with the two men. Now, Peter later testified that Sabina seemed friendly, maybe a little anxious, and told them that she was looking for her sister and that she had had an accident, and asked if they had any bed and breakfasts around there or hotels in the area. And Glenn had said no. Um, Now, I choose to believe it was because Glenn was just a very kind soul who helped people in need. He said, "Why don't you come to my place and rest for a little bit, and then we'll call the hospital, see if we can find out where your sister is." Um, but I mean, from a woman's perspective, um, Sabina has a rather severe case of resting bitch face. But to a 54-year-old man, it's not unimaginable that he might have found her attractive. But regardless of whatever motives Glenn had for this, he didn't do anything creepy or pervy in her presence. And so she agreed, and they walked and just sort of talked, and everything was just super normal. Um, Now, obviously, Glenn and Peter had not watched the news from the night before to know who she was. Back at Glenn's place on Duke Street, he offered her a cup of tea, and she started to act a little bit odd at this point. She was kind of like kept peeking out the kitchen window. She offered them both cigarettes, but when they went to put the cigarette to their mouth to light it. She snatched it from them, saying they were poisoned. But then she lit one of them and smoked it herself. So at this point, Peter's like saying to himself, like, I'm good. I'm out of here. So he left just before midnight. Now, he later testified that in no way did Sabina act like she had just been hit by a car 24 hours earlier. She showed no signs of being in any kind of pain. She didn't have a limp, nothing. And Glenn at that time, he felt, she's a bit quirky, obviously, but she's fine. She's a little bit quirky. Don't worry about me. Now, so for reasons that only Glenn knows, he allowed Sabina with her poisoned cigarettes to stay the night at his place. And then the next morning, Glenn continued to make some phone calls for her, looking for her sister. So he called his brother, Paul, who worked at the university hospital, to just ask him if he could try to find out what ward maybe Ursula was in. And at this point, Sabina still seems fine. Like, she's not even the slightest bit strange. No more mentioning of these poisoned cigarettes. She's not peeking out the windows anymore. Everything is just really, really normal at this point. So Glenn noticed that he was out of tea. So this was around 7:30. This was actually later that evening, so 7:30 at night. So she had now been there at his place for about 24 hours, mostly acting pretty normal. So he went next door to ask his neighbor, Frank Booth, he was out washing his minivan, if he could borrow a couple of tea bags. And he said, sure, but can you just wait till I'm done what I'm doing and I'll bring them over. So he went back into the house and immediately comes back out, hunched over, and he's bleeding now, saying, like, she stabbed me. He then collapsed, and when Frank ran over to help him, he said, look after my dog for me. Now, he died before the paramedics could get there. He had 5 stab wounds to his torso. So as Frank is calling the police, Sabina runs out of the house. She's running down the street. Of course, she's picked up by surveillance. She's hitting herself in the head with a hammer repeatedly. And this poor passing motorist, Joshua Gratage, saw her. He pulls over, tries to help her, like thinking that she's just gone a little bit nuts. And Sabina actually screams, whacks him over the head with a roof tile that she had in her pocket for some odd reason, which of course stunned this poor guy. But by the time Joshua had come across her, paramedics in the area had already gotten the call to look for her because she had taken off. She managed to get to a place called Heron Cross, and the bridge that went 40 feet over the A50 motorway and jumped, which would have killed most people, but not Sabina. She instead broke both her ankles, fractured her skull, was rushed to the University Hospital of North Staffordshire again. And she was tested again to have no traces of any drugs in her system. Now, as far as I could research, after Ursula was released from the hospital, which was sometime in September of 2008, so about 4 months later, after this initial incident, she temporarily went back to Sweden, and then she returned to Washington, D.C., where she had lived before all this happened. She was released without any charges. And according to Vice, she is now a member of the Sacred Heart Church in Bellevue. Now, there's no reporting if Ursula actually ever attended Sabina's trial, but it doesn't appear so. Sabina was released from the hospital on September 11th, 2008. She was taken into police custody to await her trial, which was supposed to begin in February of 2009, but they had some issues trying to get her medical records from back home in Sweden. So it was actually delayed until September of 2009. But the medical records they received didn't really reveal any history of any mental issues or any kind of disorders. An investigation discovered Sabina's DNA on the kitchen knife that had been used to kill Glenn. They also recovered her bloodstained jacket and a ring that she had taken off at Glenn's place. So obviously it was a conviction for murder. Now, she was originally charged with murder, but she took a plea deal and then pled guilty to manslaughter by diminished capacity, which is what we would call an NCR, or not criminally responsible defense here. The tapes of what had happened on the M6 motorway, they were never played at the trial. So during the plea hearings, she said nothing except no comment. The judge accepted the defense's argument that Sabina had been suffering from something called foyer à deux, or in English, shared psychosis, which is translated as a madness of two, which is a really rare disorder in which delusional beliefs of one person then are also believed by another. So they think that Ursula was under psychosis. Sabina was susceptible to influence by her sister, being that they were twins. Folie à deux is not actually included in the 5th edition of the DSM, or Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, because the criteria for diagnosis is considered insufficient. Basically, that it's too rare. But apparently, from what I understand, it is included in there now. As something that can actually happen. So she was sentenced to 5 years in prison, which she served only 2.5 years at the Bronzefield Women's Prison. Justice Saunders said of the case, "I understand that this sentence will seem entirely inadequate to the relatives of the deceased. However, I have sentenced on the basis that the reason for the killing was the mental illness, and therefore the culpability of the defendant is low, and therefore the sentence I have passed is designed to protect the public. It is not designed to reflect the grief the relatives have suffered or to measure the value of Mr. Hollingshead's life. No sentence that I could pass could do that. It is a sentence which I hope fairly measures a truly tragic event." Now, Glenn's brother Gary said of the whole thing, "We don't hold her responsible the same as we wouldn't blame a rabid dog for biting someone. She's ill and to a large degree not responsible for her actions, but her mental disorder should have been recognized much earlier. I do question the criminal justice system for allowing somebody like this to be let out when she is capable of committing such a crime. Her mental condition should have been properly assessed after what she did on the motorway and the experiences the police had with her. Her mental disorder should have been picked up prior to being let out into the community. Glenn saw Erickson in distress and was just trying to help. He wasn't slow in coming forward to help somebody in distress. It was in his nature. He was trying to help. He would help anybody. If he saw a fight in the street and the guy was losing, he would help." So she was released on parole in 2011. I believe she returned to Sweden, but no one actually knows for sure. During her incarceration, she never spoke of her sister at all. She never gave any indication of why things went down the way they did that day. Now, there is some alternative theories to this other than shared psychosis. David McCain, who's the author of A Madness Shared by Two, says that Sabina's partner was in the drug trade and that the twins were under surveillance by Ireland's police, and that explains the cell phones in the bag and the refusal to give up the bags. But I don't think it really explains anything else. The conspiracy website Red Ice Radio claims that they were the subjects of a government mind control, and the bright colors of the police jackets on the highway had set them off. Then there's, of course, a self-harm pact theory that Ursula was the one that was feeling self-harmish, and her bond was so close with Sabina that Sabina couldn't live without her, and whatever Ursula did, Sabina was going to do as well. But Sabina was the one of the two of them that was the most likely to have issues, because she was the one that had left her husband behind. So I don't really buy this one either. And then, of course, there's the alien hybrid theory that both the sisters survived the vehicle hits because they are genetically superior hybrids, which does not explain her resting bitch face. Because if someone's going to create a truly genetic superhuman, like, wouldn't you want them to kind of look kind and unassuming, like Mr. Rogers or like Oprah Winfrey? Anyways, that was the bizarre case of Glenn Hollingshead, and I'm going to be back again with another bizarre and strange case that I probably can't wrap my brain around. In the meantime, do your rate review thing. You can make some comments in the whatever it's called, comment section. Subscribe for more episodes to get notified. And as always, thank you so much for watching.